It's truly insane how fast I'm flying through these books. Tamlin says dumb shit sometimes. Hello, my name is Taylor and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we are going to be reading A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. There will be two other videos up on this channel where I read A Court of Thorns and Roses and A Court of Mist and Fury, which was, I just finished that yesterday, so I immediately went and picked up this book after I finished that one, and I'm already 17% of the way through it, so I figured it was time for an update. I'm on page 126 now, I'm on chapter 14, and so far in this book, we have followed Feyre at the spring court, kind of deceiving Lucien, Tamlin, Ianthe. They celebrated the summer solstice, and Feyre kind of absorbed a lot of that energy, that good light or whatever it was, made Ianthe a little bit jealous. We followed them along the wall with Jurian and the twins, and fast forward a couple of chapters, Feyre ends up killing both of the twins. She ends up forcing Ianthe to smash her hand with a rock for laying a hand on Lucien. Everything that happened in that part of the chapter when Feyre was protecting Lucien and the things that she was telling Ianthe not to do, I was just like, thank you. Yes, for everybody in the back, be listening to that. So yeah, it's been really interesting. We've also just followed Lucien and Feyre escaping the spring court and going through the autumn court and the winter court and being chased by Lucien's brothers. And the end of this chapter, the end of chapter 13, they kind of, Feyre was like, stop, we're not killing them. And then Cassian comes and saves the day, and that was just a really, really sweet part of the chapter. So now I believe they're on the edge of the winter border, if I'm not mistaken. And the next chapter, they'll be going to the night court. And it'll be the first time that we'll see Rysand. And it's been 126 pages with no Rysand other than connecting through the bond with Feyre. So I'm super excited to keep reading, but I figured I'd provide an update because I was extremely eager to get started last night and didn't really have time for an update. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing a video where you just see my raw, realistic reactions to reading A Court of Thorns and Roses, this series, A Court of Wings and Ruin, then I would stay tuned. There will be spoilers in this as a heads up, but I hope you enjoy. Update. I am now 29% of the way through the book. I just finished chapter 18, which is page 197 was the last page I just read, and basically that last chapter was trying to convince Nesta to try to help with everything kind of going on with the war and like the King of Hybern. And yeah, I guess it, like, I don't know, I feel like I have a lot of theories kind of starting to develop in my mind as I've just kind of read. Like, that was maybe a little over 10% I think I read this morning. Number one theory is that Cassian and Nesta are mates. That, I mean, I was already thinking that in the last book, kind of like those last few chapters, but I think it's something that Cassian knows and maybe isn't sharing, or yeah, we obviously know that Cassian, he feels horrible for what happened to Nesta and Elaine, but particularly Nesta, and I think that there is definitely like going to be quite the tension build up with them. If not like mates, I feel like they're gonna end up being like really good as a pair working together. Elaine and Lucien, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm kind of scared, honestly, that Elaine is going to do something stupid and like not going to take her being Faye seriously for a while. And I'm kind of nervous about that, especially with her wedding date. It's like supposed to be next week. And I'm really nervous that she's going to just like do something dumb, or that something's going to happen to her. But I do think that Nesta, like, this was even like Feyre's prediction in the last book, is like that Nesta has like some crazy ass power that is just like bubbling, and even Amryn sees it, which is crazy because like Amryn is supposed to be like this insanely powerful being who many people fear. So I definitely think that we'll see the fall of the King of Hybern at the hands of Nesta or Cassian. Like, I think, yeah, I could definitely see that happening in this book. In terms of like what's going to be happening when the war actually begins, I have no idea if it's going to be in Prythian, if we're going to be in Hybern, if, like, I don't want to think about the casualties. Actually, I really hope everybody in this book doesn't die. I'm so scared. I don't know, I'm just really nervous. But we've also gotten, we're officially back in the night court at this point, and everybody's there, and they've just called a meeting for all of the High Lords to meet, and Feyre's gonna be there as a High Lady, the first High Lady, and I think that's gonna be really interesting. That's supposed to be like 2 weeks from where we're at now. Rhysand and Feyre, we got their reunion, overdue update with this book. I am 55% of the way through, and I think the last time that I made an update, I was like 17% of the way through or something like that. I know I was on page maybe like 100 and something, 120, and now I'm on page 388. So it's definitely time for an update. The last time I made an update. I was cut off in the video because I didn't have enough storage on my phone. I've hopefully fixed that. Essentially, that last update, Feyre was just seeing Rhysand for the first time in this book. We have been with Rhysand for a long time in this book at this point. Kind of just try to give an update then about kind of what's happened since then. So essentially, Rhysand has shown Feyre the library in the Night Court, and basically it was like this holy place. Many priestesses who were harmed reside there, kind of as like this, just like this really safe space. Rhysand kind of offers protection for them there, and it includes all these old ancient texts, and there's like this monster lurking at the bottom that only Cassian has seen face to face. But since then, 2 Hybern guards, I want to say soldiers, were tracking down Nesta and Feyre, and Feyre essentially got the monster to unleash upon these guards to kill them, essentially in exchange for Feyre to give this monster some company. So we have yet to figure out how that's going to pan out, because we don't know who this company is going to be. I'm hoping that they stick someone truly awful down there with that monster. I'm just not really sure. A few other things that have happened. Lucien is now on this adventure. He's somewhere else. He's kind of been away for a while. I can't remember exactly where he went. Basically helping track down something. I just know that Rhysand winnowed him somewhere, and he's like agreed to help. Lucien and Elaine have also kind of, they're not quite on speaking terms still. Lucien is definitely trying his hardest, but Elaine definitely knows that there's something there. We're kind of starting to see her slightly get her spark back. The last that we saw of Elaine, she was baking with, I don't even remember what their names are, honestly. The 2 maids or servants or girls who have been helping Feyre since she was under the mountain. Those twins, Elaine was baking with them. So I'm like, okay, that's a pretty cool development. Nesta is maybe slightly showing signs that she cares for Cassian after everything that's been happening, which I'm finding really interesting, because we know that Cassian definitely has it out for Nesta in like a good way. Like, he definitely is very intrigued by her and feels drawn to her and can't stay away from her. Crazy. Wonder what that's about. We also know that Elaine is a seer now, and that she can kind of see the future, and that Nesta is connected somewhat to death itself, and is very similar to Amren in that regard. So Amren has been training Nesta on how to unlock her full potential there. And the last that I read on 388 is they just got back from their first battle with Hybern. Hybern is officially in Prythian, and they just went to the summer court. Like, all of them went to the summer court minus Amren, Elaine, and Nesta. They basically helped defend the summer court. We see Feyre kind of in this battle mood for the first time, I guess, and she's able to tap into Rhysand's mind. The King of Hybern kind of plays a trick on Rhysand and isn't actually there. It's like a holographic image of the King of Hybern instead of actually him. Rhysand's able to get a little bit of his power back after kind of being struck with this spell, or this Faebane, which is also another really interesting. This whole concept of Faebane, this like powder that they're blowing at them or putting in their food to diminish their powers every once in a while in this book. Super interesting, kind of freaky. I'm wondering how much more of that we're going to see in this book as it kind of plays out in the war. But essentially, Hybern has officially attacked. They're basically back at the Night Court at this time and preparing for another battle, doing what they can to prepare with the meeting with other High Lords. And Feyre is also taking flying lessons from Azriel, and it's going rough, but she's getting better. But the way that Sarah J. Maas is describing the pain that she's in, the way her muscles are aching and everything, like, it's almost as if you can feel like you're in that flying lesson and the frustration and everything. So yeah, so much has happened. It was definitely time that I did an update. because I am over halfway through. I'm absolutely flying through this one. I'm still thinking about A Court of Mist and Fury as well, though. I can't stop thinking about that book and everything that transpired from the first book, all of the buildup and all of the storyline that we got in the second book, and then going into this book where it's getting much more action-packed. It's just so interesting to reflect on those and see how everything is tying together, especially as it comes to Feyre and Rhysand's story, and just like everything that's transpiring. It's just so interesting and so fascinating how Sarah J. Maas's mind works, honestly. So anyway, super long update, but I just wanted to provide some context before I continue filming, and I'm really excited to dive back into this. Things are getting extremely heated. I am on page 425. They're officially at the meeting with all of the High Lords, and Tamlin's there. All of the High Lords are there. Tamlin is there, and Tamlin is being everybody's pain in the ass. And at this very last kind of paragraph, Rhysand just basically made Tamlin shut up. Basically, what did he say? The gasping fish look is a good one for you, Tamlin? Yeah. My mouth has been dropped this whole time, the things that Tamlin is saying to Feyre, and just all of the accusations that are being made against Rhysand. And it's hard because at a surface level, it's kind of like the first book. Rhysand is made to seem like this bad guy, and like that he's siding with Amarantha, and like that he's sharing a bed with her, but it's like, no, he was being like assaulted for 50 years, for decades, to protect his loved ones. And it's so crazy to be at this part of the series where we know all of this information, and we're seeing Tamlin as more of like this villain, and it's just getting really tense. So I just wanted to cut in, because if you keep seeing my mouth like drop, it's some of the stuff that is coming out of these people's mouths. It's yeah, it's tense. Chapter 46 was essentially kind of a lot like chapter 45, where Tamlin says dumb shit sometimes, and there was a lot of fighting. Feyre essentially showed that she has a kernel of all of the High Lord's powers when she sent like flame and then light and like water at Baron, the High Lord of the Autumn Court. And then it ended with them all being like, why does she have this power? And her being like, I just have a kernel of it. Like, it's my power. It's not like it's hindering you. Like, you gave it to me. And the chapter ended with them all like standing in alliance with Feyre, except for Baron and the Autumn Court, who had winnowed out of there. Chapter 47 looks like it's pretty long. It looks like it's about 20-ish pages, about 15 to 20 pages. So I'm gonna read this next. I think there's gonna be a ton of information in this. I think we'll see more of the conversation between maybe Feyre, Tamlin, and Rhysand, who knows? But a lot of them, at this point, they've decided to stay and talk, even though like the alliances have been made. So that's what chapter 47 is, I'm assuming, going to be about. It looks like it's going to have a lot of information in it, so yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. to chapter 49. Chapter 48 just ended with Rysand saying that King of Hybern just used the cauldron to break the wall, like just completely destroyed it. And Nesta had been feeling queasy and she like got sick and even warned them the day before, but a bunch of like Helion and Rysand's, like, they all searched for any threat and there wasn't anything the night before, but it was the next morning after the meeting that happened the day before that this happened. So that's where I just finished, was that the wall has been destroyed with the cauldron, and basically all of this alliance to go against the King of Hybern and come up with an attack plan, it kind of just didn't work because they were almost like too slow, which is kind of crazy because they had already moved up the meeting that they were all gonna have up by like a couple days, like 4 days or something like that. I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen next. I'm sure it's going to get much more gory and much more war focused from this point on. So yeah, I'm really nervous. Sarah J. Maas does a really good job of writing really brutal, really scary, like your heart's beating really fast scenes. Definitely makes my anxiety kind of go up, honestly. But yeah, she does a phenomenal job. I think the rest of the book, though, is going to be very action-packed, though, because yeah, I'd say I'm probably over 60% of the way through. I'm nervous. Okay, I just wanted to quickly convey where I'm at in the book. I just reached chapter 64, page 562, and the end of the last chapter ended with Elaine being lured by the cauldron in the middle of the night. Nesta, Amren, and Feyre all could feel the cauldron like pulling them toward it. Just interesting to see how that unfurled. I had a massive gut feeling at the beginning of this book that something was going to happen to Elaine. Basically, Elaine was going to kind of be stuck the same way that she was at the end of book 2, kind of in that like trance and just like not really able to do anything. We'll see like what happens, I guess, at the end of this book with her, but I had a feeling that like she was going to be lured away or taken or something like that. Also, what's happened since I last gave an update is that Feyre had went to go speak to the Serial. Ianthe and 2 Hybern guards had shot the Serial with an ash arrow, and so it basically left the Serial to die, and Feyre couldn't live with that, so she basically lured Ianthe and the Hybern soldiers to the Weaver's cottage and basically was like, here's dinner. And I just thought like the whole chapter with Feyre and the Serial passing away was just really, really sweet. Even though it's supposed to be this dark, scary character, I mean, Feyre trapped a Serial as a human and thought that she was supposed to stay with Tamlin given its messages. Then we see it in the second book, and the Serial tells how Rysand is her mate, and then we get to this third book, and she's going to the Serial to ask like where Hybern's army is, and it says like, I told you to stay with the High Lord, and Feyre's like, you meant Rysand. So I just think that that's like, that was just a really nice way of rounding out their story together, honestly. Like, that was just really touching. We're thick into the war now. There's been 3 or 4 battles at this point. They are more north toward the middle of Prithian at this point, where the Weaver's cottage was, and they just found out that the Highburn soldiers are actually closer to the south, and that they were indeed tricked, and that they are very, very close to the human side of the wall that doesn't exist anymore. So that's kind of where we ended. I think the more and more that I read, the more high stakes it's going to get, the more battles are going to rage on, and the more I'm gonna be like gritting my teeth, scared that someone else is gonna get hurt. I only have 44 pages left. I literally just had tears streaming down my face from chapter 74. I'm so scared to keep reading. Oh my god, this is tugging at my heart. Seriously cannot believe that it is already time to talk about this book. I know I said that with the last book review that I did, but it's truly insane how fast I'm flying through these books. I read this in less than a week, 700 pages. I started reading it on May 1st, and I finished it last night on May 5th. So needless to say, I absolutely devoured this one. I absolutely loved this story, this book. Also, as I was reflecting on this last night, I just truly couldn't believe how much was just packed into these 700 pages and how fast we flew through the story, especially the progression of the end of A Court of Mist and Fury going into this book the amount that transpired and that we knew as readers was going to transpire with the war with Hybern, and like knowing that they're preparing for battle. Pharaoh's training a lot with Cassian and Azrael and learning how to fly and use her wings. We knew Elaine was still healing, that Nesta had this power that was going to erupt. There was so much jam-packed into this story, and I loved every second of it. As you will have seen with some of the clips that I took last night, I absolutely just started crying reading some of these chapters. I have had tears form in my eyes with the past 2 books, and I've had tears form in my eyes for some other books. Definitely not as much with this series. The last book that I read, A Court of Mist and Fury, I definitely had tears like forming, and especially as Rhysand and Faye were like finding out like that they're mates and that, you know, Faye was accepting that. I definitely had so many tears forming in my eyes. I had so many tears streaming down my face reading this book, which is just so unlike any book I've ever read in my whole life. I've never just truly like cried to a book. The things that I cried on, I'm sure if you've read this book, you already know what I was crying over. But first thing that made me cry was Nesta and Cassian. Cassian getting hurt, that was just so detailed, and seeing how much the King of Hybern was like really trying to draw out his death was painful to read. And then Nesta like covering her body with his, absolutely unleashing his power because of how hurt Cassian was. And I'm sure you can guess what truly made the tears stream down my face, and that was when Rhysand died. I could see it coming from a mile away, him using his power to keep Feyre tethered as she was going into this veil that the cauldron kind of opened up and was spilling out into the world as she was trying to repair it. Him saying, "I love you," I just knew that him using all of his power to keep Feyre tethered to their world wasn't going to end well, and I wasn't surprised at all when he died. It didn't make it any more easier to read knowing that that was coming. I immediately just started crying because I knew it was coming and knew that he would lay down his life. It was a big theme in this book and the last one, is how much he would lay down his life for the people that he loves. And seeing him just actually do it for Feyre and for the entire world, truly, as she was patching up the cauldron, was just made me so emotional. And the entire scene of her just like screaming and agonizing, and I had a feeling that he was going to come back to life. There are so many other books. I didn't think that we would only have, you know, really 2 books with just their love story. Like, I was like, that would be so cruel of Sarah J. Maas just to let him die. But the getting all of the power again from the High Lords, I was really weary of that. I knew that even though that there's so many tensions between some of the High Lords, that they would do anything to probably save one another. But it was just, yeah. Even Tamlin's comment to Feyre, like, be happy, like, that was just a lot. Like, that definitely made me emotional. And then seeing Rhysand come back to life, it was obviously just like being transported back to being under the mountain in the first book with Feyre's death and her coming back to life. And she even made a comment about it where it was like, hey, like, you saw me go through this under the mountain and now I just saw you die, so like we're even, I guess. Nothing could have prepared me for the pain that I was going to experience reading that, because that was just icing on top of the cake with all the other things that had happened. In terms of the other things that I really enjoyed about this book, and I've kind of mentioned this throughout some of my updates, was Ianthe's death and how much that was kind of like utilized, and Feyre kind of shapeshifting into Ianthe at the end of the book, the Weaver wearing Ianthe's pendant on her head. Ooh, that was pretty freaky to read about. The Suriel's death and all of them preparing for a war, seeing Elaine's character development in this book, that symbology of her wanting to plant a garden, as in like planting a garden is just hope for another tomorrow, and seeing her go back to things that she loves was just really sweet to read about. And her stabbing the King of Hybern at the end was just like chef's kiss. Like, obviously we all thought Nesta was going to be the one to just like truly kill the king in one fell swoop, but Elaine being there to truly fully get it started, and then Nesta finishing it off was just icing on top of the cake, honestly. I'm super curious to see how the 4th book is going to go now, because we did end on a few potential cliffhangers and a few potential plot points for the 4th book. The 4th book is much smaller. I think it's only about 200 to 300 pages. It's much smaller compared to the 699 that is this book. Even the book I read before, Court of Mist and Fury, is 624 pages. So I'm really curious to see how much detail we're going to get in this 4th installment. There's a few things that we've kind of ended on cliffhangers. The Bryaxis, the monster that was in the library that Feyre kind of let loose for the war, he is currently missing, or they're currently missing, and so she's going to have to track him down in this next installment. We also have renegotiating the treaty and figuring out how we're going to blend the human world and the Fey world, and the talks of the wall being put back up or not being put back up, and everybody's mixed opinions. Even redrawing territory lines between some of the courts was kind of adhered to in the end of this book. So there's definitely a lot that could happen, and there were a lot of deaths and a lot of healing that happened in this past book. I really want to see Mor be happy. We learned way more about Mor's character in this book and why she acts the way she does toward Azriel. Amren's character was all over the place, from betrayal to saving everyone. Like, that was just, all of that was so jaw-dropping reading that, and just seeing how her character is going to develop now that she went through that transformation is going to be really interesting. And we have all these other storylines that have yet to develop, like with Lucien and Tamlin, and with Nesta and Cassian, and Lucien and Elaine, or Elaine and Azriel. Like, there's so much that could happen, and there's so much to unpack even after reading this, and it just makes me so excited to continue following this story. And I'm gonna say it, but thank the cauldron that Sarah J. Maas did not kill off any of these family characters that we learned to love in the 2nd book, because reading about Rysand's death and Cassian getting hurt and Azriel getting hurt, that was a lot. So thank you, Sarah J. Maas, for keeping them alive. Even though you did kill Rysand and we brought him back, that was really hard to read, but it definitely made me realize how much I've appreciated this story the more I've read it, and just how truly unique I'm finding a lot of these storylines. And yeah, I'm so excited that I picked up this series when I did, and I'm so excited that this book lived up to any and all and surpassed any expectations I had for it, and I'm so excited to see what the 4th installment brings. I appreciate you following me on my journey of reading this series, of reading A Court of Winks and Ruin, and I hope you'll stick around for the next one. Okay, thank you. Bye.